Thank you. I would direct the board to C.01, and for recognition to the board, I have a presentation of the Classified Employee Recognition Award for the month of October to Mr. Mike Baxter. Mr. Baxter was recommended by Jeff Kimsey for the great work that Mike did over the summer, getting the high school entryway re-landscaped. There was old rubber molds that he went in and pulled out all of it by hand, got everything torn out, truckloads of rubber mulch, went back in, dirt, grass, put the sod down in August. And so if you go up to the high school now, you'll see thriving grass, and getting sod to take in August is almost impossible. And that was all from Mike being up there and babying that grass. So he did a great job. And it was also just an awesome opportunity to see kind of this award where Mike is not one of Jeff's employees, right? It's not somebody under his department, just him recognizing like, hey, here's an employee in our district doing great things. So that was a really cool thing to see. So we were super excited to get over and present Mike with that award, and he was super appreciative.
As you can see in the picture, he was the second recipient of the Medallion of Excellence. It was designed by Mr. Gilkey. So happy to present that. He has to wait all month.
Next up, Mr. Gilkey, K-State College of Health and Human Services.
Thank you, and I'm going to introduce Dr. Andreessen and Kennedy Lynn, and Dr. Andreessen is going to present on Kennedy's recognition from Kansas State University.
Good evening, everyone. At this time, I'd like Kennedy to come forward. Kennedy has been chosen to receive the K-State College of Health and Human Sciences Rising Professional Award for 2026. This award honors significant contributions made by a graduate in the early stages of her career. She was nominated by colleagues in the early childhood program for her achievements within the field. So you might be wondering, what has Kennedy Lynn achieved? And that's a lot. So this is Kennedy's 5th year here in our school district. And since Kennedy has been here, she's been a leader every year. She has been our Teacher of the Year in the Early Childhood Center. And she continues to show so much growth and passion for the early childhood program. This year alone, she is the lead at the district level for our professional development team. She's also the lead at the district level for our behavior framework team. She also leads our professional learning for our new teachers, and she's also a mentor for new teachers. She is a huge asset to her full day team, which is our classrooms that are there all day long. And as on a personal note, she is a great person to work with, to bounce ideas off of. And I know every day she makes me a better administrator so I can do my job better. So I could say a lot more about Kennedy, but just know, just this 5th year coming into the program, she just always reminds me of someone who has been around for a lot longer, and she's been with me the majority of the time that I've been in the early childhood. So I would like to give a big, big round of applause for Kennedy Lynn. She will actually go to K-State in the spring and receive like her actual recognition. She goes for the weekend, so at that time she'll actually get her award that she receives. But thank you for allowing me to recognize her tonight.
All right, next item up is our October 25 board report for MSBA. Darren.
We got a video with the conference coming up.
Association's board report. Filing for the next school board election is only a couple of months away. There are many things that districts can do between now and the start of filing to prepare. MSBA's Associate Executive Director of Leadership Development, Catherine Hairston, says that this is a great time to start communicating with the community about the upcoming election process.
So what I think districts and boards should be doing to prepare for candidate filing is getting the word out. Letting people know, informing the community. It's so important to have the best people serve on the school board, people who care about the district, who are advocates for the community. And so getting the word out about the openings that you have, and then also informing people what is it really like to be on a board. And we really encourage you to have some sort of a community forum of sorts, and we actually have a like a draft presentation that you can just download free off the website, plug in your information, and it's good to go.
Catherine emphasized the important work of school board members and how having an informed community affects elections.
Because of the importance of school board members and the impact that they have on the success of a school district and of a community, helping community members understand that voting in this election truly can change the trajectory of a district and of a community.
Catherine also says that MSBA has numerous resources to help potential school board candidates from filing to election.
For candidates, we have a whole page just devoted to a candidate with like, what does it mean to be a board member? We have some flyers on how to actually file, the law behind it. Our attorneys were a really great thing, which is awesome that's new this year. And then we also actually have a module that you can work through at your own rate. It's interactive that really kind of explains what does it mean to be on a school board? What does it look like? What are your duties as a board member?
Visit the MSBA website for all of the resources and training modules available to school boards and to potential candidates. Additionally, you can learn about required notices, dates and times for filing, candidate qualifications, financial disclosure statements, and more at MSBA's Board Candidate Filing and Elections webinar held on November 4th at 1 p.m. This webinar is recommended for superintendents, board secretaries, and other central office staff involved in candidate filing. Find more information also on the MSBA website. Did you know that MSBA's Center for Education Safety team has a book? The Essential 5 Field Guide from the CES team is a must-have resource for school leaders facing the unthinkable. Designed for board members and superintendents, this practical handbook breaks crisis response into critical phases. CES's Chief Operating Officer, John McDonald, explains how the book was created and why a resource like this is needed for school leaders.
What we've done is we've talked to school board members, superintendents, and principals across the country that have experienced significant tragic events, and we interviewed them for the book. And this is really a CES project. We brought in all of our team members at CES. They're all part of the development and writing of this book. From preschool through high school, we train our kids. We train them on lockdown, what to do in a threatening active shooter environment. We train them on fire drills, where to go, how to evacuate. We train them on what to do in a tornado and how to shelter in place. But what we're not doing is we're not training our leaders on how to manage those crisis events. So we train our kids, we spend time with our teachers, we train our principals, and then it stops. Who's training the leaders? Who's having the open, honest, direct, relevant conversations with those leaders who keep schools safe? Those leaders that are making the decisions moment in time in the first 5 minutes, 5 hours, and 5 days that define the next 5 years.
John says that after a crisis, lost time is lost trust, and that's where the handbook comes in.
Following crisis, you often have a limited amount of time to win back your school. And if you don't win back your school, then you really face some pretty significant issues, including loss of trust from your community. And trust is hard earned and harder to keep. So how do we keep that trust that we've spent so much time, so much energy building, only to lose it because we're not communicating well, because we're not transparent, because we're not getting the information out fast enough? All of this matters moment in time. Our parents demand to know, our kids want to know, our teachers expect us to share what we know. Transparency is key. We try to lift that up through the book.
The Essential 5 is available in paperback and on Kindle. Visit the MSBA website for more information. And last but certainly not least, thank you to all who hosted and attended MSBA's fall regional meetings. Meetings were held in all of the state's 17 regions as attendees gathered to network, learn, and share with fellow public school leaders to ensure all students succeed. That's it for this month. Thanks for allowing us to have some time at your board meeting, and we'll see you in November for the next MSBA Board Report.
Anything further, Mayor?
Just a reminder that our annual conference is next week, as you see with the sheet in front of you. So hopefully we all get a chance to go and take in some sessions and maybe spend a little time together.
Any visitors, Lisa? No visitors. We're going to move right on to the superintendent's report. Dr. Boyd.
Thank you. If it pleases the board, I'd just like to share some updates from throughout the district. for October. So up here is just a revenue and expenses overview. If you look there on the left side, so that's just our expense distribution. If you look at the blue, pinkish red, and yellow, that's about 58% of our expenses going towards salary and benefits. So that percentage is actually down than what it's been in the past, and really that large reason is that doesn't encompass the amount of our salaries and benefits employees that are contracted services, whether it's through special ed, counseling, some of those other services. So that's some of those percentage pulled out. But then also we have a new house payment, so to speak, with Lewis, which is about $1 million. So that increases a percent, which lowers all the other ones. So, you know, when we were talking last spring, as you prepare, usually our salaries and benefits are about 70%. So that's down to probably between 62 and 64, just because it's all one piece of the pie. So when you take that house payment out of there, it lowers those other percentages. So just some transparency in that process. As you look at the revenue by source, so local about 52%, state about 35%, federal about 7%, and county is about 4%. And so this is just one of those regular overviews that you can start expecting now that we have kind of our new balancing tool up to date. And financing tool, this isn't something that we'll need to share over time because, you know, every month, because this won't change. We'll share this when we do quarterly budget revisions. But this is just an overview of where we're at as we prepare for this Q1 revision. As you can go to the next one, this is something that I'll be prepared to share with you each month, just to give you an update year to date, and then also the monthly amount. So you can look and see FY 25, which is the 24-25 school years, in the blue, and then this year is in the pink. So there's monthly comparisons with the two. The biggest impact to expense comparatively is compensation, increased contractual agreements. As you can see, through September FY 25, we had about $300,000 extra in revenue from the Children's Fund reimbursements compared to FY 26, so that's where you have some reduction there in the revenue. Really, some of that is just when that money is spent and then ask for reimbursement. So the actual allocation exactly the same this year. Last year, we requested some of that money earlier than we have this year, so that's just why you see that reduced revenue. At the end of the year, that will all equal out to the same when it comes to that $300,000. And then also we're down about $200,000 in Prop C from FY 25, and that's just because there's a reduced essentially per pupil for Prop C from the state, which has been budgeted for. But that's just where those reduced revenues, that $300,000, that $200,000 is where you'll find that delta there between the 5.7 and 5.2. And then the expense is up about $225,000, and that's due to an insurance recovery purchase. So the cooling tower at the high school and career center, that actually is being covered by insurance. Dr. Thomason covered this a little bit in the spring. So we'll have that increased expense right now as we pay for that. Once we pay for that, we'll request reimbursement from the insurance, and then that'll recover over there in revenue. So that's why that's up at this time of the year. We didn't have that extra $250,000 expense. So just some transparency there on the year to date. Over on the monthly revenue and expense, that's just where some of those monies tie in there. You'll see that $200,000 in revenue from the Prop C that we have brought in, and the expense, that 0.1 is some of that 225. So there's just an update, and again, I'll try and give those every month just to give you guys a year-to-date of where we're at, just create some transparency in that process as we move forward. So this is something that we chatted about a little bit as, you know, developing the budget, having those conversations, talked a little bit about it as Dr. Reich was here, as we were kind of doing some financial strategic planning. You've probably been hearing about this in the news through MSBA updates. You'll also hear about this next week at the MSBA conference. But essentially, per Governor's Kehoe's Executive Order 2514, they have created a task force to create a school modernization funding. And so essentially what they're doing is they're going to meet, there's 4 task forces, which I'll discuss on the next slide, and they are to meet, to have open forums, to get discussion, and recommend changes to the governor to modernize the state funding structure for K-12 education. Following principles that are listed there, some things that you'll want to take into account or look at: equality opportunity for all students, regardless of geographic location, sustainability based on realistic state and local revenue forecast. So just like our district, we talk about it being a pie, the state revenue is a pie as well. So as you see new legislation that go towards capping assessed valuation, capping taxes that would impact state revenue, anything that impacts state revenue in the negative would then impact school funding in the negative. because the pie is only so big. So those are things, as you hear those legislative updates, as you see new bills being recommended, those are things that we want to be very aware of as a school district and as public education, because anything that shrinks that pie could negatively impact us. That's something that the School Modernization Task Force is looking at. Incentives, this is something I'll talk again about on the next slide. There's a whole task force designed to determine whether incentives should be based on performance of schools and educational outcomes. It's a little scary. Adequate funding to sustain school operations and address reasonable educational costs. So, are we allocating enough budget that says what legislation says we should pay? So this year they had to pass an extra amendment to the budget of about $600 million just to fund what it was the legislation passed in the last two bills to fund that. So those are things that we want to be aware of, and that they have a task force designed to look at those things and say, are we allocating enough budget to meet the demands for the laws that we've already passed? And then you have this task force also includes support for non-traditional public school options, such as charter schools, virtual learning, so you see those vouchers and scholarships, and then maintaining local flexibility to utilize funds to best meet student needs. So those are the items and principles that this task force has split up into 4 teams in order to recommend changes, and this is what the governor would like to see. You'll probably hear about this in some, moving forward obviously, but also in some of the sessions you'll be able to attend. Here's the 4 task force work groups. You have your funding targets, and you can read through there some highlights here. So that's examining potential adjustments to the base per pupil target and weighting mechanisms. So what that means is they take the highest performing schools in the state and they say, what is your IEP count ratio? What is your free and reduced ratio, right? A lot of those are high performing districts that don't have a very high IEP count and they don't have a very large free and reduced. So as a district that does have a high ratio of IEPs and that does have a high ratio of free and reduced, we actually get an increase in per student ratio because of that. That's good, that helps us, right? We face certain challenges that other school districts that are high performing don't. So this is something that that task force is looking at. Do they like the way that's set up? Do they want to change the way that's set up? Do they want to remove some of those things? So that's what that work group is looking at. When you look at student counts, focus on how student enrollment attendance data are used or distribute funding. So, currently we're in the middle of changing attendance to enrollment and your per pupil attendance ratio. So you get counted on 90%, right? If your kids are here 90% of the time, you get to count that in your funding. If they're not, you have to staff for it, but the state's not going to fund you that way. So this task force is looking at how do we account for attendance when it comes to school funding. Local effort factors, so property reassessment cycles, levy adjustments, harmless provisions. Essentially, what we want to look at here is the bills that are being recommended, legislation that's being passed. How is that going to impact local revenue assessments? If you look at caps at assessed valuation, that could potentially harm us in the long run because that's how we fund locally. Missouri is 5th out of 50 states and being funded locally, so that's really high. We're 50th out of 50 states in state funding. So that's where anything that affects us at the local level, tax assessment, any of those things are something we want to be very aware of and talk to our representatives about. Looking at bills that are passed that decrease taxes, what we have to look at is what is the plan to then backfill those taxes so that way the overall pie at the state doesn't shrink, because that could negatively impact us as well. So all these things are things that the task force is looking at and getting input from the public on. And then performance incentives, members are looking at approaches for measuring district and student outcomes. So when you look at this, think about APR, think about MAP, think about EOCs. If they are going to start accounting incentives or funding based on those 3 things, how does that impact us? How do we start measuring that? How do we continue to focus on improving those things? They already use those things to kind of rank and sort us throughout the state, which isn't great. We're facing other things that other communities aren't. But also, are they going to now use that to fund us? And so that's something that they're looking at as well. Post-secondary readiness, all those other locally driven measures. This group is looking at is that how they're going to fund us or provide incentives for funding in the future. So things that we need to be aware of. But those are the 4 task groups that are coming up with the recommendations to how to update the funding for public school education in the future. So just wanted to give you a brief overview. That's a lot of stuff there. If you go to this, if you go to the agenda, you can have a link there. There's a lot of good information there from the state. Desi will talk about that. There should be some sessions at MSBA if you want to go and kind of learn about those things. It'll be good information, but all of this stuff is changing and you never know where it's going to go. It's like everything else kind of in, you know, local and federal politics right now. It's kind of all over the place. So something we want to be aware of and be able to plan for and have some contingencies for if we need to. Moving on to the MSBA conference. So there is a board finance workshop. I think Tracy and I attended that last year, if I remember. If you would like to attend that, so that is Friday from 1:30 to 4:30. If you would like to attend that, I'd be happy to attend that for you. It won't be any new information for me. I'm attending these things about every 2 weeks, but I'm happy to go with you if you would like. We just have to sign up ahead of time. So if you're interested in going to that, let me know. Thursday, sorry, yes, Thursday. If you're interested in going to that, if you can just let Lisa and I know by mid-morning tomorrow, we'll get you signed up for that. There's no deadline for it, but I think the sooner we can get there, the sooner they can compile our stuff. And then I'm happy to go with you that afternoon if you'd like, and then we can kind of look at some of the stuff together. But it's a pretty good one. We went last year. I think it was nice that Tracy and I went there together and we looked at it just so she had questions about our stuff. It's nothing that we haven't covered. I don't think there will be anything that we haven't covered so far. The timeliness of our strategic financial planning that we had covered a lot of the stuff that you would see there. Kind of what we've talked about with local funding, we've kind of covered there. With our Q1 revision that we'll do in a little while, we've covered a lot of that. So there, I don't know that there'll be new stuff there, but it's good information if you would like to go. Just kind of let me know and Lisa know, and we'll get us registered for that on Thursday. And then lots of budget finance sessions are coming up. So they actually just opened the app this afternoon. I got the email. If you download the app on your device, either on your phone, your iPad, or your laptop, that'll show you the sessions and when they are. So if you look here, the concurrent sessions 10:05 to 11:05, there's 13 concurrent sessions. You can kind of choose which one you want. If you kind of look at those, you can say, hey, I want to go to this one here, this one there. What I'll do is I'll go through and look at those when I download the app over the next couple of days, and I'll send you guys which ones I'm going to if you'd like to go with. If you'd like to go to those with me, or if you want to go to a different one, we can kind of get together afterwards and kind of brainstorm on what we saw, what we learned. It's always good seeing the Expo Student Showcase time. There's lots of good stuff going in there. There's vendors in there always trying to sell you stuff. As you look at concurrent sessions, I always advise, pay attention to who's presenting. If it's two vendors, they're probably trying to sell you something. If it's a vendor and a school district, it's probably 50% selling you something, 50% good information. So just kind of take that into it and feel free to ask as you look at those. I'm happy to help you with that. My plan for general session, if you would like to go, I'll get there by 8 Friday morning. If you kind of want to meet in the main lobby, if you're interested in going, we can meet. We can go in there and sit together, have breakfast, watch the presentation. I would love to do that. Let me know if you're able to make it that morning, and we can just kind of set up a time in the lobby to meet. We can go to breakfast together. We did that for lunch last year. They kind of switched it from a lunch to a breakfast this year. So I'm happy to do that with anybody that's able to get off work Friday morning. Just let me know, and we'll kind of collaborate that way. And then we'll have the general sessions that you can go to, kind of check those out. And then Saturday morning, you'll have more general sessions. I think we looked at it, some of the concurrent sessions on Saturday, there's not as many as there are on Friday. Some of them are repeats. So you'll just kind of want to look at both of those days and see if you're able to do it. I won't be able to attend Saturday. I'll actually be out of town. My wife's college volleyball team to be recognized. So I don't get a choice. We're going to go to that, recognize it with her. So, but I'll be there Thursday afternoon and Friday, so we can get together on those. So, any questions on the MSBA conference or any of those? If you slide to the next slide, there's a general list of all the sessions. There's a lot of finance, which is why I kind of wanted to cover that with you on those task force, because you're going to hear about that. I don't know if they'll go in more depth or less depth on those. That website is really a good resource for those. This is also in your board packet, and it should be on the app as well. So I know that you can't read that. If I blew it up, you wouldn't be able to see it, but it was kind of a get your attention and then you could go look deeper somewhere. So lots of budgeting, lots of safety, lots of community engagement, communications, lots of AI this year, board roles, ethics, operations. So any questions over that? Board update, revenue, expenses, MSBA?
I do have a question.
Yeah.
On the 4 task force groups that they have, how are they selecting people for that? Is it just lawmakers? Or are we having people from the field of education? Are we having business people? Are we having parents? They're handpicked?
They're handpicked by the governor, so I believe there's 16 and then maybe a 17th, I could be off on that number, so don't quote me on that were assigned by the governor and then split up. If you go to that website, it will tell you who they are. A quick Google will tell you generally who they represent. But that would be an interesting list to look at as well. So,
I'm curious on that.
yeah, good information. Good question.
Maybe on that topic, with the funding change, we talked about how there will likely be winners and losers, right? There's an update to the formula. Is there anything that we are doing or can be doing to influence things the best we can? I mean, I know they're not calling us and asking us what we think, but what can we do to help this process?
So that's a great question. So the superintendents, this is almost all that we talk about every time we meet. Bi-monthly, monthly. So there's a specific legal firm, not ours, that's putting together a public school education. Essentially, it's an advocacy group, and they're trying to put a bill on the books and get signatures that public money should just go to public schools. And so that's something that they're putting together. There'll be all kinds of things that are going out there trying to advocate for us at the local level. As those things come along, I'll share that with us. Really is trying to stay up to date on, as you have special sessions that come out that are recommending new House Joint Task Force bills, those types of things. I'll try and keep you updated on that. I try and put it in newsletters if I send newsletters to you, any of that information. I think at the local level, what we can do is trying to create as balanced and competitive budgets as we can to be prepared for contingencies as it comes along. I think that being aware of any new bills, any new legislation, any new changes that come along, either to local assessment or the state budget, because a large part of ours, even though we're 50th out of 50 states, you know, if you go back, we're still, what percent is our state funding back on our other form, right? So we still have a lot of state funding that comes to us, and if that pie shrinks, it's got to come from somewhere. So there's a lot of people that are looking at where do those cuts come from, and so we'll have to prepare locally, advocate for public schools, talk to your local representatives, state representatives, and so we're trying to do things, and as we get advocacy, as we work on those things, as superintendents, as school groups, as boards, we'll share that, and then you'll have contacts that you can reach out to. So I hope that helps a little bit.
All right, any other questions for the superintendent's report? All right, moving on to discussion items. First up, Cornerstone Elementary update, Ms. Broadbent.
Good evening, how are we?
Good.
You guys know me, I'm Jessica Broadbent and I'm the principal at Cornerstone. I was thinking today, this is my 15th year in district, so very excited about that, and this is my 3rd year being the building principal at Cornerstone. This evening I get to share with you all the great things that are taking place within our building. At the beginning of this year, we launched a theme of We Are Cornerstone, All In for Learning. This emphasizes that we are one team supporting all of our students within our building. At the heart of the work are 3 big focus words. You see impact, support, and connect. All 3 of these words are what drives us in everything that we do, say, and focus on throughout each and every day. One of the big ones is impact. We recognize that sometimes we may be noticing impact is being made, but we don't always stop and recognize it. So this year at Impact, we are really holding ourselves to every time we see impact, celebrating and recognizing the great things taking place. We maintain a focus on effective teaching and learning. You can see those adorable faces up there. We continue to prioritize wit and wisdom. I think some of you see you. I see you over there. We continue to prioritize wit and wisdom as our core literacy curriculum. And it's been really exciting to see our students dive into some rigorous text, hold really collaborative conversations, and have pride in the work and the learning that they are doing inside the classrooms. This is our 3rd year with the curriculum, and I could not be more proud of our staff and the confidence that they are demonstrating and the opportunities they are trying to connect with the Wit and Wisdom modules alongside authentic learning opportunities. In addition to literacy, we are intentionally focused on giving students more opportunities around science and inquiry-based learning, especially on our half-day Fridays. If you've seen our social media Facebook page, You probably have seen lots of science learning taking place. As you see up here, you see a few of our friends in science there on the left and in the middle, and you see nothing but joy as they explore, ask questions, make predictions, and investigate new ideas. We could not be more proud of our teachers for the setting up of these experiments and learning opportunities for our kids. At the heart of our effective teaching and learning at Cornerstone is our building leadership team. This year, this team has spent the summer reviewing data, collaborating, and really having some authentic conversations about how to best support our students and staff at Cornerstone. And they truly have developed a for us, by us approach to assist in developing professional development that is exactly what each and every one of us need. They are leading the charge with a focus on vocabulary and building word-rich environments that help our students understand and use language confidently throughout all of their content areas. Collaborative culture and climate. We continue to maintain our work around PBIS, ensuring consistent and positive learning environments throughout all of our classrooms. We are continuing to refine our Tier 2 processes to support some of our students with necessary resources and supports. As you know, our building received recognition last year for the work around PBIS, and this is due to the outstanding work of Ms. Grossman and our PBIS team. Ms. Grossman is our assistant principal and leads our PBIS team, and they have done a tremendous job of maintaining a focus on common language, major versus minor referrals, and responding to student behavior throughout the building. One of the biggest things we are doing this year, which you can see photos of, is our building-wide assembly. We've never held a building-wide assembly. We've usually split it. But we are really trying to build a culture of recognition. And with that, we have been able to launch lots of celebrations and recognitions for students. In September, we had 46 students that were recognized, 12 classrooms, and 4 staff members. Within those 46 students, we recognized students for Character Trait of the Month, for our Student of the Month. They also received their breakfast with family members. And we launched 2 new recognitions. One of them is our ROAR Award, and it stands for Recognizing Outstanding Attitude and Resilience. These students are selected from every classroom by their classroom teacher for demonstrating that attitude and resilience to do the things that they need to in the classroom. And with the partnership of our Excelsior Springs Community Center, we have been able to provide each of those students with a coupon for a half-priced day pass and a free froyo, and they are so excited. We're excited to see it continue as we go throughout the year. We also, our second launch of recognition was with our first student bus transportation, where we are recognizing students for going safely, being respectful, and being responsible as they travel to and from school each day. First Student has provided students with a gift certificate as they recognize those bus riders that have just been outstanding passengers. So some of you guys may be getting those in the future. I know we got some in September. Are you excited about it? Yeah? At Cornerstone, I'm really proud of the partnerships that we have developed, not only with our families, but with our community. I really believe that this plays a critical part in supporting our student success. Our family involvement team is planning another outstanding fall STEAM event, and the theme is Great Migrations. There's going to be lots of family engaging and hands-on opportunities around learning experience in the STEAM category, and it's going to take place on November 13th. We'd love to see you guys there. As you know, the color run at Cornerstone is a huge thing. So all of these faces could not be smiling and full of color without our PTO. Cornerstone is extra special in the category that we have parents and families in our PTO that go above and beyond to support our students. One of those examples is our recent color run. It's our 4th annual color run with our PTO. We had over 300 participants and over 30 volunteers. It's the biggest event we've ever had. It's also the biggest event that we've had staff participate. So I attribute that to our PTO really designing it more than just a run, but being some like engaging opportunities to for staff to participate in. So you may have seen like the ketchup and mustard race, or these big, what do they call them, granny panties, that caught balls that students threw at our teachers. It was a fun night, and it was great, not only for our students, but for our staff. They're currently in the cookie dough fundraising sale era, so you may have seen that on social media or in your neighborhoods. They're selling cookie dough. And one of the things that I wanted to highlight is some of the things that they're planning to do with those fundraising funds. It is one school, one book, and it is a reading initiative where every student in our building and staff member will receive a copy of the same book. And we will work together with this shared reading experience through different activities throughout the year, but end in the spring at our literacy night with a culminating activity that wraps up the whole thing. So we could not do this without their support. It's pretty expensive, but due to their efforts in fundraising and just supporting us as a building, they've made it possible. And so our teachers have selected our top books, and we're in the process of like finalizing it. There's a lot of favorites. We're trying to find the right one. Here's a snapshot of our school improvement data. It's just a quick look at where we currently are as a building. We're really remaining focused on adequate growth across all students and adjusting our instruction as needed. Attendance is up from where we were on the average daily attendance from last year at this time. 95% is higher than where we were at this time. However, we're really focused on that 90% of our students being in attendance 90% or more of the time. Some of the things that we're doing is reviewing data with our attendance committee regularly, reaching out with communication to families, and providing connections and supports as needed. Instead of holding our attendance hearings this year, we are really developing some student attendance success plans that build connections, supports, and remove barriers that are existing in order to get kids in attendance. We're really excited to see what it does to play with our overall building attendance. Behavior, our major referrals are at 50 at the end of September. This is increased from where we were at this time last year. Our minors are down to 63, which is a decrease. In October, we really spent our in-service day going over positive PBIS language, as well as launching a strong start to handle some of the transitions throughout our building. We'll continue to dive in and review Q1 data as it's getting ready to end in the next couple of weeks. At that time, we'll review and adjust and reteach as needed. Our STAR reading data shows an increase to where we started several years ago, but it does show a 2% dip from where we were at the start of the school year last year. We remain focused on our Tier 1 instruction and all things literacy and math. We are committed to reviewing our data during our Thursday collaboration to really look at that standard and see what the ceiling is and what the rigor is to ensure that how we're teaching is meeting that expectation. We just recently finished our Math STAR assessment, and you'll see our scores when you look at your November board report. We're really excited about the growth that our students will make this year. Before I hand it over to the stars of the show tonight, who waited so patiently, I could not miss an opportunity to highlight this group of educators who truly demonstrate impact, support, and building connections. They truly believe in students first and have done everything as a team this year to work together to support any and all students in our building. And I could not be more proud of the team and to be their building principal. Without further ado, I'm going to bring up Ms. Holly De Leon, our music teacher, which some of you may know. She's not just the regular music teacher. She actually went viral last year with our 3rd grade music performance, and kind of got some big attention. But tonight she's here to introduce our honor choir, which is a district honor choir, but we have 4th graders that are going to represent it from Cornerstone. So I'm going to turn it over to her, and she has an awesome little thing to share with us.
Okay, thank you. Well, good evening, and thank you for allowing us to be here tonight. We've brought some special guests with us to tell you a little bit about honor choir. This is my 10th year in the district. Honor choir for the elementary school area has been going on for many more years than I've been here. And so we've just been carrying on that tradition. We did stop it during COVID for a bit, but we're back, we're strong, and so we include Elkhorn, Lewis, and Cornerstone. Every Wednesday we get together from 4:15 to 5 o'clock, and we do that for about 9 weeks, so it's the end of September. And they're always all confused. Why are we singing Christmas holiday music? Even before Halloween, they're like, it just has to be that way. And then we go through the first week of December. So I'm gonna let these guys carry it on what we're going to talk about here, so take it away.
Good evening, members of the Board of Education. Thank you for giving us the chance to speak with you tonight. We are proud to represent the District Honor Choir.
Our honor choir brings students together from 3 different elementary schools. Even though we come from different buildings, when we sing together, it feels like we're part of one big team. We learn to listen to each other, work together, and create something together. Being part of the honor choir helps us grow, not just as singers, but as people. We practice responsibility by showing up, commitment by learning our music, and confidence by performing in front of others.
We're especially excited about our upcoming performances. This holiday season we'll be singing at Crown Center in Kansas City. We also hope to perform in our small town parade, which would let us share music with the community. Music gives us a way to express ourselves and bring people joy. Thank you for supporting the honor choir and the arts in our schools. We're proud to represent our district and can't wait to make you proud through our performances.
We have one more special treat tonight.
We're gonna look this way. Come on. And this is a song that we sang, not just the honor choir, but it was the whole entire school. We sang this song called Make a Difference for our 9/11 remembrance. So we're just gonna sing the end of it for you. So here we go. 1, 2, and.
We can make a difference in our world today. Together we can make the world a better place. When we work together, so much can be done. If all the children in the world would sing in unison, we know what's right and we know what to do. The future can be brighter. It's up to me and you.
Holly, can we get a picture of you with them?
Absolutely. Yep. You can do that. Right here. Yep. Just put your papers down. Just gather around. Somebody stand for me.
I'm sure Jason.
There you go. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll get on it.
Glad I don't have to follow that.
Right? Can they come back next month?
All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. Looking good.
Great job.
Good luck, Miller Fall.
I know, right? This is going to be riveting.
It's all yours.
Oh, is it?
I mean,
I'm on it.
it's just
Okay.
yours.
Thank you, Mr. Board President. Wanted to give the board just an update. Beginning of the year, it's really not beginning of the year, post beginning of the year in the directions that we're headed. As you know, MAP scores typically come out really, really late, and I'm talking about the scores, MAP and EOC scores that happened in May of last year. They're actually a month early this year from the state, and so I should have those available for you next month. So this is just the STAR data portion of the academics, and then I'll do some comparative things next month with the MAP and EOC data. So this was kind of my cheat sheet of goals on what I wanted to accomplish. We're doing a lot of focus on learning culture, what it takes for a student to feel safe, what it takes for a teacher to create that environment where a student can not only learn with their peers, but take risks and do the things that they need to reach that higher DOK level that we want them to get to. Getting teachers into other classrooms, one of the first things that I tackled when I got here 5 years ago was, you guys have heard me talk about Tiger Walks. The best learning opportunities that our teachers have are right here in our own buildings. Our teachers offer the best professional development that we could possibly give them. So that's still just common practice now. This next one's kind of a little difficult to explain, but giving teachers permission to adjust their lessons to meet the needs of their students. They were following the curriculum so rigidly that, and I think that we still struggle for that. Teachers are rule followers by trade, and so when you give them a scope and sequence and say this takes 2 days, they will take 2 days even though it may only should have taken 1 or 5. So teachers really, I think, feel comfortable as led by our principals with their encouragement to really let the kids steer the curriculum instead of the curriculum steering the kids. Publicly rewarding risk takers who make a difference. I give the Hope Award each year, and I think in addition to that, I am constantly rewarding principals and teachers whenever I see vulnerability. In that vulnerability and that risk-taking, that's where the change happens, and oftentimes it's scary to make a mistake, but that's the only way we get better is if we do something different. So super proud of the principals and for the teachers for making those changes. New language is something that we're always focused on growth over numbers. When I talk about the STAR assessment, I typically try to only reference it in how kids are growing, and a little bit more on that when I get to the actual scores. When I got here, kids were a number. Like, what is the cutoff number-wise where my kid will be on grade level or not? And I just stopped doing that because it's not about being on grade level, it's about growing to your capacity. So no matter where you start, the expectation is that a kid grows a year. Teaching administrators how to use data and create quality assessments in very small bites. We're working with teachers. I'm doing just a full PD session once a month, and we've got like little data pieces that they explore on their own. Hopefully that will transition to teachers. I think our teachers are sometimes afraid to create their own quick assessments to formatively assess where their kids are at. So really working more on that once we get moving over the next couple of years. Teach principals how to set building SMART goals. They have worked a lot over the past 5 years to do their building improvement plans. If you jump to the last one there with creating a CSIP that matters for academics, Dr. Bowlemore is going to be leading us with the new company in developing that CSIP moving forward. That's so important, and I'm looking forward to that. It's going to act as a roadmap. Instead of me coming up with goals on my own, they'll be there that the public should be directing us a little or advising us a little bit more than they have been. I feel like this list is something that was responsive, just because I don't think that we've really had the vision and the ability to look forward and have a step-by-step plan. So looking forward to that. The principals do such a good job of looking at data and knowing their kids and knowing their teachers and being able to come up with reasonable goals and attaining those. So another thing that we started this year is once a month, assistant principals are meeting with me and additional cabinet members to really just give them instructional support and training them how to be instructional leaders. If we want our teachers, we want to grow our own, and so those assistant principals, it's just important to go ahead and give them the training that they need so that when a position does open, they're in the best possible position to move up. This is just the visual that I use with everybody. It stays the same. I try to keep them for 3 or 4 or 5 years until I feel like I've mastered them. It's really just as simple as remembering that teachers are coming to us with all different skills. Some of them are not traditionally trained. And so just providing them with the tools that they need to be successful regardless of their background. Literacy is the giant lift that we're doing right now with a huge focus in that, and I have some data to support kind of the decisions that we've made. Data teaming and really the PLC process. Instructional strategies, the goal is to give 3 instructional strategies a year. We did our first one at the beginning of this year, which is a vocabulary protocol. So that's a district-wide thing that the principals teach their teachers. Looking forward to sharing this with you next month. The STAR really does a pretty good job at predicting where the kids are going to be and where they will perform on the map. It even ranks them in proficient and advanced. It does a really good job. For some reason, when the kids get to the map test, they underperform on it. So some differences there. I don't know if a week of testing, that would probably make me less focused on my work if I had to assess for a full week. So there's some test longevity there. I believe that the vocabulary is a big holdup for our students, which is why that we are really focusing on vocabulary. So I'll have some comparative stuff for you next month on that. The first table that I want to show you is our STAR reading proficiency rates. So I have reading data in. Math should be in just now, but it wasn't in time for me to present math scores as well. Again, this is just from our STAR assessment, but this is the amount of proficient and above students. This is our 3rd year of doing STAR assessments, and we've had Wit and Wisdom for 3 years. And so this is the simplest possible way that I could share with the board that our literacy program is working. So it takes a long time to turn this ship around, but it is incrementally getting better and better every time we test kids in reading. So all of the things that we have in place with reading success plans, Wit and Wisdom. We've got a new phonics and phonemic awareness program that works hand in hand now, so I'm pretty proud of that. So STAR reading student growth rates. This is a little bit, so again, this is the focus on growth. The first one was a performance score. This is really focusing on growth. How this breaks down is that, again, you want every kid in your buildings to be growing at a rate of 100%. Which is average growth needed in order to complete the year, if that makes sense. So it will rank them on above normal growth, below normal growth. And so of our schools tested, this is, again, at the elementary level, 65.2% of our kids are growing at a typical growth. So that means 62.5% of our kids are on track to grow for the year. Or above. So it's high growth or typical growth. That's actually down 4% from last year. We were on track to really increase that, so that's something that I'm aware of. Growth is the most important thing. Just comparatively, 4th grade has the highest growth rate of 75.6%. That's this year's 4th graders. 2nd grade, and I don't know if you remember me talking about this before, 2nd grade will always be the lowest because they take a separate test for kindergarten and 1st grade. They take STAR Early Literacy. This test is a little more complex. It freaks them out a little bit more, and so you always see that dip in 2nd grade. It's really, really typical. The school's percent of students making typical or better growth, again, looking at fall to fall and then fall to spring. This is last calendar year. It's going down a little bit. So what that means is that, I'll show you on this next graph here. This is growth rates. So this is fall of 24-25. So last year's fall score. From fall to winter, this is growth rates. You can see that it's lowering. It's a little bit deceiving because you have a pretty good growth rate when you have a summer in between May. You should have like really amazing growth. So it's the data point after that where we go from winter to spring. What this tells us is that kids are, they're not growing as much 2nd semester as they are 1st semester. Again, I think that's pretty typical. If you've been in a school building, I've referred to it as February faces. It's grayer at schools during the month of February and March, and so really trying to get everyone on board and focused on keeping that rigor and keeping the passion up and keeping the happiness up and keeping the grit up for that 2nd semester. Another thing that is concerning to me is if you look fall to fall of this year, what I like to do is compare the first dot, which is where we were last year starting, and then this is where we are this year. So we're starting with a lower growth percentage this year, so I'm going to keep an eye on it. If trends this year happen like they did last year, we typically see a decline here. So I'm concerned about the growth, and that's something that I'm going to be watching. Next thing, this is specific to the middle school. The middle school was in a different predicament. They actually did not test in May, so it kind of jacked up my data a little bit with being able to follow that for a year. They're missing a dot for that reason. But again, looking at fall to fall and then fall to fall this year, we're starting at a lower pace here. I'm going to be watching that closely for our winter. I really, really need that score to go up. Again, growth is far more important to me than a proficiency rate. So kind of as a result for that, again, to talk about my plan, I don't ever want to show you a piece of data without saying, here's what I'm doing about it. So what academically, the decision is really to focus on vocabulary. I really do believe that not just in literacy, but vocabulary across the curriculum is what's keeping our kids from being really moving to that next level. So you see it from, it happens all the time where a 5th grade teacher says, you learned this in 3rd grade, why didn't you know all of those things? So really being intentional about the vocabulary instruction. There's a way to teach vocabulary where kids are more likely to remember it and retain it. And it's not looking up dictionary words and writing them down. If that happened to you, that's why you don't remember any of it, because that's not a really good skill. In addition to the vocabulary focus, which again is a K-12 initiative that everybody can learn from. So if you remember, we sent K-5 teachers to letters training specifically so that they could be skilled in phonics, the science of reading. 4th and 5th grade are finishing up their 2nd year right now. In addition to that, I offered up Aspire training. So the easiest way I can say that, and Jill, this is probably going to hurt you, but Aspire training is like secondary letters, is the easiest way I can say it. There's more to it than that, but that's as close to the best definition I can give to a board right now. Not only did I offer it up to middle school and high school ELA teachers, but I also opened it up to our social studies teachers at the secondary level, because so much of what they do revolves around reading. They're basically sorting out essays, and I'm encouraging them to do more writing. So I had several social studies teachers that are actually going through reading training, which is really impressive. Just a couple of celebrations. Tony Harmon has taken over our internship class. I think this is his 2nd year of doing it. I think one of the most fun things about leading in this capacity is that you get to go to your really highly skilled people and just build the parameters. So I said, I really want this internship class. Here's what I'm looking for. They have to have transportation. They have to, find their own connections. Really just kind of built the parameters around it and said, see what you can do with it. If you have any opportunity to reach out to Tony Harmon, he has just absolutely made that program his own. We have 14 kids currently doing internships. Some of them, like we have one student that wants to open his own gym, so he's doing an internship at Anytime Fitness, doing some personal training, but really finding out the ins and outs of the business side. I've got a realtor, Kenny, always looking for more realtors to shadow. He'll slow down long enough for the kids to follow you. He has one student that's wanted to go into dispatch at the sheriff's department. Those are just actual opportunities that the community has been awesome with. If I were to go out and ask the community for partnerships, I wouldn't get a lot of returns, but when you send one kid out that's passionate about one thing, we have not had a lot of issues with finding partnerships. When you send one kid that's passionate about what you currently are doing, and a kid says, I want to learn what you do, we've just created a lot of partnerships with that. So can't say enough about Tony Harmon and that program. The Missouri Flex program, I talked a little bit about that, I think at the end of last year, so that is in full force now. Rick Schwab is doing an amazing job with that. That is basically a work release program where we can make a curriculum out of what they're doing at work. So if they need math credits, we could come up with some things they're doing with math, reading, all of the things. One of the things that I wanted to point out with that is one of the students in the Missouri Flex program, her grandmother approached me and wanted to talk about it and said that her kid would not go to school, refused, was about ready to drop out, and she says she has 97% attendance. She's working at Applebee's and is just completely successful, and grandma was super teary, and so it's just those kind of things where you take a risk on a program, and both of these are different types of paths to get a high school diploma for different types of kids, and the more opportunities we can offer to a kid, the more creative we can be in getting them a high school diploma that's really tailored to kind of what they're after. I always tell you my biggest challenge, biggest hurdle. I don't think it's unusual. Everybody in Missouri is facing this with the overwhelming amount of money that they're throwing at us all the time. So I looked at our staff in the 5 buildings, and I wanted to know who is a first or second year teacher, or who is teaching a content that they were not teaching the year before. And so this is what I pulled. The reason I chose that is because being a teacher is stressful anyway. Being a first or second year teacher and doing new curriculum just adds a whole layer of stress on top of that. So at Cornerstone, 42% of our teachers fall into that category, where it's that extra amount of stress. Either they're brand new or they're teaching a grade level that they hadn't taught before. Elkhorn is 28% of their staff. Lewis is 16%. Jill is quite blessed with her 2 teachers. Very happy girl with her new teachers. Middle school is at 55%. So 55% of that building is struggling with something completely new. Either we're trying to teach the teachers how to be teachers there, or they are needing some more support with curriculum and understanding that new program. At the high school level, 19% of their staff are in that boat. So at the middle school, one of the reasons that number is so high is that we transitioned from having 6 people in a core area. Our numbers allowed us to transition to 5. But what happens is you have teachers that used to only teach 6th grade that are now teaching 6th grade in like maybe one section of 7th grade. They are far more worried about the one new section than they are about the 5 sections of what they're used to. So just wanted to share that with you. The one thing that I'm continually aware of is, and I think the hardest part of my job is, the easiest way to say it is I try to go as fast as I can, but as slow as I must. And this is one of the indications that I have to slow down a lot of times with pushing that gas pedal and kind of offering different things to teachers at a more reasonable time, because this is the percentage that are going through that extra stress. Wanted to point out the success of this. We offered Canvas courses to personal finance and health. It was a really good success. That's $40,000 to $60,000 we got to keep in-house instead of sending that to launch, which is what we had done. Jeff Manning did a wonderful job with creating that. And you know this is like my favorite thing to talk about, Battle of the Books. So at the elementary levels, it was so much fun last year that we now have 2 teams. So we have a 2nd and 3rd team, and a 2nd and 3rd grade team, and a 4th and 5th grade team. So just wanted to point out some celebrations as well. So that's all that I have.
Thank you very much. Any questions? It's a lot. I think she finishes a close second.
Second to what?
To the kids.
I'll take it.
I don't, yeah, you gotta sing.
I won't be second. I'll be after MSBA.
I don't have a question, just a comment. I was glad to see the emphasis on supporting teachers and taking risks and adjusting lessons. Like the best teachers I had, like, it was both a science and an art, and to emphasize that side of it. So I was glad to see that.
Yeah, that's really what it's all about. So if you look at the success of our half-day science day, that was a huge risk. Like that was a huge risk to be able to have kids that are doing these deep dives, hands-on experiments. We were at Cornerstone on the last one. Ashley Lohman had kids in full lab coats with goggles on.
My daughter loved it, I'm gonna tell you that, she loved
The
it.
kids are just, it is the best feeling ever. Like, if you need a pick-me-up, I'm happy to take anyone on a tour on, those half-day science days are just fantastic. And that was a risk that was taken, is because science was typically at the end of the day, and by the time you do bathroom breaks and all of the things come up, they were running out of time to teach science. So we just sort of squished it together and said, you've got a full half day, that's all we're gonna do, and it's worked out really well. Thank you for pointing that out.
I've heard from teachers that how much they love that half-day science day, and how it also is playing into attendance, because half-days students sometimes are like, it's half-day, or parents are saying we'll do something different instead of go to school, and so the attendance is higher, you know, on those days, and then hopefully it makes the kids want to come on the half-day because it's the quote-unquote fun day.
It is. I'm glad you pointed that out, is now we're kind of pushing secondary. It's like we have all these elementary kids that will not miss this day. Like, it's hard to get kids to show up for a half a day. Every kid there will tell you it is the best day of their life whenever they're there. They are overjoyed. It's the best. It was funny, I didn't tell Jessica this, but I walked into a 3rd grade classroom, and the kids were just nuts. They were they were like creating a structure that would withstand a flood. And I walked in, and the teacher saw...
Was she in a lab coat?
No, she was not. The teacher saw Mr. Gilkey and I walk in, and she immediately freaked out and was like, had the kids calm down and be quiet. And so I walked up to her and I said, I love the chaos and the noise. Like, the kids were actually like upset when she quieted them down. They were all going, we need 5 more minutes, we need 5 more minutes. So it's just a different feeling. And again, giving that permission to explore and make a mess, and it's been great.
So there were some numbers in here, of course, that were kind of disheartening, that you would have hoped that they would look a little different. You recognize that, you called that out. What amount of that do you think is part of like switching to the new program, right, versus the new teacher, new subject challenge? So is there is the data speaking to us in a way that it's the new teachers are coming in and they're having to learn, and so do you have students that are coming out of new teacher classrooms that you're not seeing the growth from those students because of the new teacher challenges that they're facing, or is it, do you believe it's more curriculum based?
So the one thing that I will tell you, I've got the middle school pulled up here. It's hard to really say about the issues at the middle school because, number one, I'm looking at reading scores, and last year Jill actually asked the perfect question. She sent me an email and was like, how long have you been doing Wit and Wisdom? It was their first year to implement that. So you'll have a dip. You'll have a dip. However, I will say that they didn't follow they didn't have like, they were pulling things on their own. They had a curriculum written with standards and they were teaching to it, but they didn't have really, this is a group of resources you can choose from. So in addition to, you're gonna see a dip, they actually have something to go on that, I mean, if you wanted to, you could flip through it and really just read through it. So it's simplified, the rigor is higher, but there's a rhythm to Wit and Wisdom, and I think elementaries can say that. It takes a while before you're like, I can fit this whole thing in. In addition, another challenge at the middle school is they're written for 90-minute lessons, and so they're having to kind of shrink them down into 45 minutes. They're really just covering 2. So the timing, it's really just a rhythm that we're trying to get into. I will be honest with you though, like Annalise can say this, you constantly are tending to your new teachers. It's a constant worry. Are they getting everything that they need? What more professional development do they need? You just can't meet with them and support them enough. And so it's hard to build a momentum when you are replacing that many staff members. So it's definitely, I think, the biggest threat to education, in addition to funding, is truly teacher attrition.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's been the narrative for as long as I've been up here. And what are the things that we are putting in place to help ensure like that we're doing the culture check-ins, we're not giving burnout by October for them. How are we ensuring that our teachers that have been around that are also supporting them, they're playing the mentor role, that they're not getting burned out also? What are those touch bases that you guys have planned to ensure that we're not doing the repeat thing year over year and just sticking to the narrative that everybody's going through it? Like, how are we at Excelsior Springs going to try and like grab them and keep them?
Yeah. So one of the main things that we talk about is, like, I hit the ground running my first year. I had worked with every principal. They trusted me. I was lucky enough to not to have to build like relationships with the crew that I had because I was an assistant principal with them. So, I mean, I got a lot done in the first 2 years, like just a madhouse where we got a lot done. I would say I am continually slowing down, questioning, is this too much for teachers? Even this year, what I thought was barely anything, had the principals come and be like, teachers are really stressed out, we need to redo some things. So just listening to them on that, that's frustrating. Because, like I said, I'm pretty impatient. I like to go really fast. So, but cabinet oftentimes is like, you should probably just, it's okay. We're going to take a little more time. The additional professional development day that we offered at the beginning of the year, I think from a classroom management aspect, seeing that teachers who struggled before and left, they really struggled with classroom management. They felt like a loss of control. They couldn't get to teach. So. I've had feedback from the principals that was really an effective use of their time, really, to get them going with that. You nailed it with one of the things that I saw, especially like at Cornerstone, with so much turnover, is that we were wearing our returning teachers out by having them, you know, you're in a grade level with 2 other teachers, they're new, you're the only one that knows how to write a lesson plan, and so it is an extra burden. So one of the things is just really listening to them. For example, at the middle school, I have a new math teacher, and for some reason he was placed, the schedule, he is not collaborating with any other math person. He's collaborating with a librarian and the project lead the way teacher. And so once I found that out, it's like, I'm going to give you as many half days as you want to collaborate with the math teacher. So oftentimes you don't know what to do until they ask you. And a lot of times they don't ask you, you have to find out about it and provide it anyway. So we're just trying to be really responsive to give them what they need.
And we feel like we're creating an environment where that everyone, not just the senior, teachers that have that personal relationship, that everybody feels comfortable to come, and there won't be any like recourse for them, their vulnerability. You guys spoke of it this last week, that your opinion of it, which is not mine, leaders don't ask for help. I don't believe that. You can say, I need more support, and by giving me more support, I can help these students, which is the ultimate goal. Yeah. So I hope that people feel comfortable.
I very much believe leaders should ask for support, though. Yeah, and I feel like, again, having that culture where you celebrate the struggle and recognize that that's just part of it, and recognizing, again, celebrating vulnerability and taking chances. You just have to be patient and slow down and offer them as much support as they need. I was a brand new teacher and never was in a classroom ever, and it just clicked. With, sometimes it clicks with people, and sometimes they really struggle building a relationship with a kid. So you can't offer a prescriptive thing district-wide and expect to be responsive to everyone. So you really just, and that's what our principals are doing when they're meeting at those grade level collaborations and those weekly grade level meetings. They are constantly in their classrooms. The instructional coaches, I don't know how we could do this without instructional coaches. With the amount of new teachers that we have, I mean, they are just absolutely pivotal in getting that new teacher to stay and getting kind of over that hump. Yeah.
I have a student, a 5th grade student that loves Wit and Wisdom. Gets so excited about it, tells me about it all the time.
I love it.
Speaks to it as Wit and Wisdom.
I love
Not about
it.
the subject matter, but as Wit and Wisdom. The other question I have that may be next month, but we have the map and we have the STAR testing, right? And like one is supposed to feed the other, which then may or may not return. Which the map is what decides the funding, correct?
Well,
plays into
not
funding?
yet. MAP basically right now determines our accreditation. It determines our rank order. It's what the news puts out to people. It is what reports to, when Kenny sells a house, the success of our school district. So those test scores, fairly or unfairly, I think it's pretty unfair, determines the success of our school. STAR acts as a way to inform that, but the one thing that STAR does that the MAP does not is, number one, it gives you timely evidence so you can respond to it, but more importantly, it shows if the kid is growing or not. A MAP will just tell you your kid's not on grade level, but the STAR will tell you, hey, this 5th grader came in as a 2nd grade reader and now they're a 4th grade reader. Well, that's way more to celebrate than they're not on grade level. So kind of 2 different tests, 2 different assessments, just to clarify that.
I'm going to need you to report on that when you sell your next house.
Yeah. And that's wrong too, a lot of times, like depending on that. That's one thing that I didn't think would be important in my job, but really looking at the data that's out there and validating it. I don't know where Realtor.com or Zillow comes up with the numbers they put at the bottom. I don't know where that comes from. I'll still try to challenge that. A lot of times it's wrong.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a comment, not a question. You know, we look at this data on reading and things, and our teachers, they're going above and beyond. I mean, this letters training and Aspire takes enormous amounts. I'm going to say something that probably will not be very popular with parents, but until academics becomes a priority at home too, teachers can work their tails off all day long. But if we're not having some support there in the home environment through conversations with your child, just having them read a little bit or reading with your child every night, we're still going to see this. And it's statewide. It's not just a district problem. This is statewide. This is statewide. It's not a district problem. The first part, we have to have that parent and school connection. We have to have that. You know, if we're running kids everywhere after school for activities and sports, which they need and we want them to do, they can take 10 minutes to read or 15 minutes to read, or have a conversation with your child, sit at the dinner table and talk. That's why vocabulary is so low, and it's low across the state. Outside of this, I have another role, and I can tell you, elementary, middle, and high school, the number one thing they want support with, vocabulary.
It's because they're
It's not a district problem, it's a state issue. Okay, I'm done. Till the next topic.
All right, any further comments, questions? Thank you, Dr. Miller. Next up is Dr. Bowlemoller, approval of the Cambrian Group Strategic Planning Service.
Thank you. If it pleases the board, I'd like to present this as a follow-up to last week's work session, so I'm not going to go into the entire hour presentation, just wanted to provide an overview. So as we've talked about last week, you know, renewing our strategic plan is not only mandated by the state this year, because our 5-year plan expires at the end of this year, also very important to me as a new superintendent coming into the district and helping determine with our community, work with our community, create that partnership with our families, with our staff, with all of our stakeholders, in creating the new strategic plan and the direction we want to take our district in the years moving forward. It also helps us stay focused on our purpose and make sure our people, our resources, and our daily work all support that plan. You know, my recommendation is to partner with the Cambrian Group, who we heard from last week. There's some phases of this that I just want to briefly go over. The first one, you have the internal facilitator program. So essentially, the Cambrian Group will provide an external facilitator, and then that person will train our internal facilitator, and myself will go to a training on that, and then they will lead the district strategic planning committee, which is anywhere between 20 and 30 people, really towards identifying and laying out the beliefs, mission, parameters, objectives, strategies of the district. So think about the big picture rocks, the big picture goals, the pillars of which we want our schools, our district, and our students to stand upon when they leave. We'll also, in that meeting, identify critical issues. So what are we facing? What are some things that are special to our district? What are some things we may be facing as a state? And they'll create those big pillars. You then create action teams, and this is when the majority of people will be able to help. So you come up with anywhere between 4 and 6 big rocks, and then you're going to have some co-leaders who are then also trained in the Cambridge model with the external and internal facilitator on how to then work smaller work groups that include staff, parents, community, and developing the specific steps and strategies that we want to work through in order to reach those. And that will be, again, I'm going through this in a way that makes it seem like it's easy. This is not easy. This will be the most comprehensive plan we've developed since I've been here. This is year 21, and it will be one that we work with our community, with our administrators, with our staff, and with our community on through both the district strategic plan, but also those subset action plans. So the overall goal of that would be to have that district strategic planning meeting, develop those big rocks, mission, beliefs, all of those things prior to winter break. Present that back to the board either at the December session or at the January session. Hey, here's an overview, here's what we came up with. We would have 2 board members on that group as well. Then, after Christmas, you identify, develop, voluntold your people to be co-leaders for the action steps, and then you come up with all those steps and the strategic plans and how we're going to meet each of those goals over the next 5 years. What are the resources we need to allocate? What are the trainings? What's a good order in which to do this? You can't do everything in the first year. You can't do everything in the 5th year. So how do you identify that timing, those plans, work together with those? Those groups will then work anywhere between January to probably March or April. There'll be anywhere between 3 and 5 meetings, hour and a half or so after school on those, so anyone can participate in those, students as well. They will then present, those action teams will then present that back to the district planning committee, who will then approve those or say, hey, could you change this? We learned a little bit about that last week. And then we will put that together. Once that group approves that, we'll put that together in the overall district strategic plan, allocate resources. Our external group will come back with the Cambrian group, and we'll work together on how do we think about this plan, how can we train the people that need to, how do we allocate the resources, both time and money, right? Our 2 most valuable resources. And then we will present that to the board for approval as the 5-year strategic plan. Then we would then say, hey, buildings, now you want to work with your admin teams and with your building leadership teams and staff to develop what does your building improvement plan look like. So over the next 5 years, what are you going to do within your building to meet those district goals? So we're creating this roadmap, right? And these boundaries of which we're all going to be rowing the same direction, having the same conversations, and it's all created with a comprehensive, collaborative effort with the board, with administrators, with staff, with parents, with community members. So I'm really excited about this. It's probably the most important thing we're going to do this year. There's also lots of other important things, but this is going to help set us up so we have a plan. We know we're rowing in the right direction. If we have extra resources come along, we know we need to allocate those. If we have a want come up, we know, does this fit into our plan? Does this fit somewhere? Or is this something that's a dream we need to put to the side so that way we can continue on the path that we need to continue to reach our goals? So that will help us both allocate those resources of time and money to make sure we're reaching where we want to go. So when our Tigers leave our hallways, they are productive members of society with that partnership with our parents. So I'll entertain any questions. I know I went through that fairly quickly. I didn't want to redo the whole work session from last week, but I wanted to give a general overview. They've heard it before. On our first building roundtables that we went through with staff, their building leadership teams kind of heard the overall process. But I would recommend the Board of Education approve this strategic planning services agreement. I'm also very excited to say that one of the first things the Cambrian group will tell you is we never want a district to say they can't use us because of money. So I negotiated about 60 cents on the dollar for their services. So I'm excited about that opportunity as well. And it's already been budgeted in the budget that we approved in the spring. And that continues through the revised budget that I'll present next. So happy to entertain any questions.
Is there going to be an opportunity for community members and parents to show interest. So can we create a form that goes out on our website and you're like allowing them an opportunity to go and raise their hand in a way that can be tracked so we know that there's interest. So we're not, if somebody really wants to be involved, we're allowing them a potential opportunity to get involved.
Yeah, I think that's a great thing. That's part of the plan as well, is we'll work, part of the internal facilitator and my training that you would go to in November is part of that process, that communication tool. So really, the district works on identifying who is the 50-50-ish split of the district strategic plan. So who are people that we know are invested in our school when it comes to parents, city, community center, ministerial alliance, all of those things that we discussed last week. Then when those things are developed, what is that communication style? Mr. Gilkey and I were just talking about a communications summit coming up in, I think, the end of the month that discusses this very thing. So how do we get that information out to our parents, out to our community? Hey, here's the 4 to 6 pillars that we know that are going to be in our strategic plan. If you're interested in these, here's the contact for that. We can share that several times. We can share that with our PTA. We can send that out in our newsletters. We can put that on the website. We can share that with our 2 local media sources to get that out there so they know, oh, I might be interested in this. Oh, I might be interested in this one. So that way they are able to contribute to those things. That's a great question.
Any further questions?
I think to me the decision point on this is, like there was a lot of talk in our session last week about the model and how they take you from, you know, your ideas into action. And I think their model seems effective. There's a lot of ways you could do that. To me, the biggest decision point is, are we, like, it will be the external facilitator. Like, do we think Mr. List or whoever we work with is skilled and effective in taking us through that process? Because that'll either make it or break it. I think that that person.
Yeah, I think it's both that person. I think it's the model that you go through, but I also think it's the team that we put together, and then that follow up afterwards, right? Worked with, I spoke with the school district at length. That I trust both of those leaders that work specifically with Mr. List through the process. Came up with a very successful product that they're very happy of, and it's been very successful for them. A lot of that's because of the follow through, but they developed a good plan up front. He's also developed it for his district the last 3 times, as he shared this last month in Nixa, very successful school district. I can't remember the other school district he discussed that they worked with as well. That's been pretty successful. So I think that, I looked at many models, many different companies that do this, including the one that we used last time. And this is the one that I got the greatest feedback on, that other districts have to use both the model and then specifically with our facilitator and what they offer in the school districts that they've worked with, and they've had a success with it.
Yeah, just to be clear, I wasn't suggesting.
No, I didn't think they
would.
Yeah.
But like, to me, that's the decision.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I think the follow through too, right? Like the board's responsibility and my responsibility, as your designee to lead the district. And what is our follow up on that? Is it just going to be a plan that sits on the shelf and gets dusty, or is it something that we're going to use and follow up on a annual basis, on a quarterly basis? Hey, here's where we're at with these. Is it something that we're really going to use in the buildings to develop our building leadership plan that they can tie back to? I think all of those are very important, because we can put together the best plan in the world. If we don't talk about it for 5 more years, what's it matter what we put on there? So
I also think it's important to make sure that, we know that the district does this. I know it's not what you guys want to hear, but we know the district does it. We create committees with the people that we want on them in a way that they're going to give me, the committee will give me what I want, right? And so back to like the facilitator, it's very important that we create a diverse group that feels that it's a safe space to be vulnerable and to speak up and to have ask questions. And I think that's kind of that's the piece that was the biggest turnoff to me on when we had the presentation, was that it felt to me like, and this isn't the case, but it felt to me in that moment that Mark Bullmore is going to pick the groups, and then the groups will be what they are, and then the people in groups down below are going to be the ones to then start executing it. I think at the top we need to make sure that those first groups that are together in their pillars also need to make sure that there's a level of diverse and outside thought that comes in as well. And it's not just a bunch of educators that everybody's already been doing what we've been doing and we keep doing what we're doing. I just want us to be open to that.
Yeah, the model is, it's about 50%, right? So you have about 50% school. So we've looked at, classified staff, parents, elementary, high school, and then you have 50% of the community. So whether it's someone from the city, fire department, police department, the ministerial alliance, parents, all of those things. So what you'll try and do is create a 50-50 split on that, so that way you're getting those voices. And that's why it's important that I am not the external or internal facilitator, because it's not my plan, it's your guys' plan, right? And so it's your voice, and then being in there, and then it should be the community's plan. And you'll hear me say this before, we are a community school, so at some point we are subservient to what our community wants, right? So it's important that we get their voices, knowing that we are also the expert of education, which is why it's important to kind of have that 50-50 split. This is what we see coming down the road, this is what's happening, getting that voice from the community on what do we want to see now within our schools, because if we don't have their support, it doesn't matter what we come up with, it's not going to be very successful.
Yeah, that's where I just wanted to make sure there's an outlet for them to raise their hand and say, I want to be involved, and then at least you've got a group of people that you know will be active and not just a passive participant. If they put themselves into the mix, then I would hope that they would be an active participant instead of a passive participant.
Yeah, and I think that, which is what worried me at first, but every district I talked to said it has not been an issue. That first district strategic planning group, that's 3 days off of work that you have to take. So if you want to be invested with the plan, you're going to be taking 3 days off of work to be invested in that. It's also why it's important that they don't want every board member on there. They don't want every administrator on there. We also want to have good leaders left that can lead the action teams. And so if they're going to be invested in it, they're taking 3 days of either personal, sick, unpaid, whatever time. And so, every district I've talked to said you end up with a good group because they're personally investing their own personal time into it, and they're going to be there and follow up on it. So.
And the CSIP, a huge part of that is community.
Yeah,
I mean,
100%.
it lays it right out there. It
Yep.
outlines it. You have to have that community involvement and support.
But we didn't have it in the past, so that's where I feel like I'm a little bit like, oh, I hope we do it right this time, and maybe we did. Maybe we did do it right. I wasn't involved in that.
We had a really good selection of community members. We really did.
And then I'm hearing that it fell apart quickly, and then it went up on a shelf. That is what was said. So I just wanted to make sure that history doesn't repeat itself.
I'm optimistic. We'll review that probably quarterly.
Yeah.
The CSIP plan, and see what we've
As mandated
accomplished.
by this.
And celebrate it. I think it's important that we
Well, Nick's has
celebrate
been
too.
doing it. What do you
And
say,
we
this is the
accomplish
third
something.
5-year?
Yeah.
They're pretty successful.
It'll be a lot of work. I'm excited for it. It's a great direction. It's come as along as a perfect time as a new superintendent coming in that we can set this up and we can do it together and kind of get. I'm not going to use another analogy because I over analogies according to Dr. Everson. It's going to be fantastic.
All right. Do we have a motion to approve the Cambrian Strategic Planning Services contract?
So moved.
First by Jill,
Second.
second by Tracy. I marked it out already, and so I could find it up in the memo to see exactly how it was worded. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor? And that passes 7-0. Final item of the evening is approval of the FY26 budget revision Q1. Dr. Bullock.
All right, so this is something that I am very excited about, and most of you are not, but buckle up because it's some good stuff that's happening here. The first thing that I would like to acknowledge and honor is all of the work that has gone into what you see in front of you in a two-sided document. Essentially, at the end of the day, what the team has done is we've essentially redone the budget 3 times in 110 days, which is not easy to do in a year, but we've done it in 110 days. So if you bring up budget planning to any of the cabinet team, they will probably roll your eyes because all the questions I asked them. If you see Alice or Audra, thank them and give them a Dairy Bee gift card because there's been a lot of meetings that we've had, and a lot of relooking at budget lines and a lot of resharing of things. So please reach out to them and thank them for their work. I would also like to specifically thank Lisa because I've had many 2-hour meetings roll into 6-hour meetings that go over lunch, and she's sliding beef jerky under the door for me to make sure that I get food. But it has been a long process. We're not where we want to be at the end of the day yet. The overview is essentially we've taken a $2.3 million deficit budget and we're at about a $465,000 budget. So we have balanced that by about 1.8-ish million. At the end of the day, we are running a balanced budget, actually in the black, in the operating expenses and teachers fund, meaning regular operational revenues and expenditures are aligned without the use of reserves. What you'll see is the originally proposed budget would have taken our reserves, which is kind of what the board goal is. Scroll down. There you go. So as you look here, so can you guys see the mouse up there? So net down here, negative about $2.3 million was the original budget, 2026 working, negative 465 change, a net of about $1.8 million. What that 2.3 would have meant is our reserves would have been down to about 18% at the end of the year. Now they're predicted, it shows over here, about 24.15%, which is great. I don't know that it'll end up exactly there, but that's what we're going to budget based on some assumptions that we'll go through. This is not what a normal budget revision will look like quarterly. This is much more in depth. This is like what we would normally present in the spring, but because of all the work that went into this, I wanted to honor the process and the work that the team put in on it and make sure we cover these things so we can answer any questions you may have. I would also like to preface and end with, we still have more work to do, but we're in a much better spot. As we scroll down, what I would like to show you as well is looking at some assumptions on this. So the plan assumes full state funding for all promised categorical, SAT, transportation funding, and reimbursements. That's a big assumption, right? They have approved the extra budgets to make sure that they say they're going to fund everything that they fund. What I will tell you is last year in May and June, or June and July, they did not fully fund the SAT. So they took that down a little bit. They can do that at any time if state revenues are not coming in. This assumes that they're going to fund us at the level that they say they're going to fund us at, which is by all accounts what we should be doing, because that's what they're telling us. This also assumes no major capital emergencies. I'm going to scroll down here and hopefully not make you motion sick as I do it, just so you can kind of follow along with me. No major capital emergencies. So if a roof goes out, could be $500,000, could be $2 million, right? That's something that we have to start planning in the future. So really I've broken this into two sections, important notes, updates, and assumptions. In the middle, what you're going to see is how we got there, and at the end you're going to see things that we need to be aware of and planning for. In the past, we anticipate making quarterly budget revisions. Again, they should be much shorter than this. There's a lot of things in here that we've updated. In the future, there may be 2 or 3 things that we need to cover, and we can knock it out in 3 or 4 minutes. I apologize for you guys. Local revenue, so another assumption here is including property taxes. We originally estimated approximately $900,000 underestimated local revenue, while county and state were overestimated by a combined total of roughly $525,000. So you have a nexus there of about $400,000, so that helped us with that deficit spending. I've also adjusted, or the team has adjusted, so now that the revenues are actually reflecting our historical collection rates of about 99%. We typically collect, since COVID, anywhere from 98 to 101% because those delinquent taxes, sometimes you collect more than you should have that year. So we sit at about a 99% average, so we adjusted that revenue to reflect that. And this also takes into account the work that we put in on our financial strategic planning and the tax rate hearing. Being able to adjust those things so that way we're no longer having to cannibalize our CTF into our debt service. That was really important because that helps us stay in the black, so to speak, in our operational fund. So that was very important. Operationally, we've created a more balanced and efficient system. We're actually running about $700,000 in the black in operations, which is great. The issue we have, our current deficit spending is limited to our long-term facility investments. And while those are planned long-term obligations, and what I'm talking about is our 2 house payments, right? So we're looking at our Lewis house payment and we're looking at our Cornerstone house payment. We know those were coming up. We knew we were going to deficit spend there. It was very important at that time that we got those things done because we knew it was going to cost more to renovate those buildings. So we put a plan into place, but those are things that we need to continue to plan for and adjust for until assess valuations, until our enrollment get to a point where it can level that out, or until we continue to pay off some of these other short-term leases, which you'll see in the next budget or the next item. So we have approximately $300,000 in other short-term lease payments, which will be coming off the books in FY30 or 31, and that will also help that deficit spending that we're spending in the debt service to get us to a more balanced budget when we get there. I'll show you that piece up here real quick, what I'm referring to. So if you look at the, here we go, estimated revenue. So if you look here, can you see my arrow? So this operating funds is 848 in the black. That's great, right? So that's where we're at for making some of these changes that we'll go over. If you go over to the teacher, that's okay, that levels out, we planned for that. This debt service of negative 540, that's really the debt, the negative spending that we're spending now. That's our deficit spending. This over here in the capital, that's negative $770,000. We're actually transferring part of this 848 over here to cover that. So that way at the end of the year, there's that $600,000 transfer right there. At the end of the year, you'll end up in the plus. You can't pass a budget that has that in the negative. So that's where this surplus is helping us in the long run. We're still deficit spending in that debt service. The good news is, if nothing changes, which I don't know that we can anticipate that, but if nothing changes, if assessed valuation continues to go up, if our enrollment stays the same, we will actually level out of that just because of regular average increased assessed valuation over time. And we have enough surplus in those, as you can see above. Right now, estimated fund balance of $2.1 million. So as Dr. Reich shared with us, we'll debt spend out of there for 2 or 3 years, and then it'll start to level and go up, and that's when we can do a no tax increase or have more bonding capacity to do some of the capital projects that we know are coming down the line. So I just wanted to hit on that. That's where we're deficit spending still, how we're covering part of it, and some of it we can cover for now as long as there's not major cataclysmic changes in how we're assessed or how we're taxed. Budget adjustment and strategic shifts. So how we got there. Student services was a big piece of this. Dr. Everett has probably redone her budget 3 or 4 times in the last 110 days plus. Really taking a deep dive into reimbursable costs. What are we spending that we can have reimbursed through federal funds, that money that we're already spending, but funds they're going to reimburse us on. So there's a lot of high need funds reimbursement, an additional $400,000 annual reimbursements. Over the last 18 months or so, reallocated federal IDA and title funds to cover allowable expenses, streamlining special education evaluation processes, and continuing to work with her and look forward at things that we may be able to bring back in-house. So right now we spend about $1.5 million on tuition to send kids that we can't service here. So there's something, or there are things that we can put into place where we can bring some of those kids back in-house, such as the Ohana classroom that we have going on at Elkhorn that's amazing. When you send kids to another school, because we can't service them and they deserve to get serviced, you also have to pay for that transportation, which is about another $1.2 million that we spend. So we found ways to get that reimbursed too, and that helps in the overall budget picture. And she's done it's a lot of money, but she's done a lot of hard work. And we're also reviewing the Medicaid procedures because we may be able to get some reimbursements there. So we're really trying to look at every single dollar, every single reimbursable dollar that's out there to try to maximize our revenues when it comes to our overall budget. Academic services, Dr. Miller's done a great job of trying to bring as many things in-house as possible. She discussed the Canvas over the summer school and not having to pay launch for those students. Some of our long-term students, we're using Canvas. It's a little bit more work on some of our staff members, but at the end of the day, that's why we have Canvas, to have that online learning system. And so there's going to be a learning curve there. But at the end of the day, if we can save another $40,000, that's a teacher. So that's what we're trying to do with that. And then, through the science curriculum, they told us one cost. We implemented the science curriculum. It was going to be about 3 times more. So, hey, curveball, hit it. We're really good at hitting curveballs. We're getting better in public ed. So we were able to save a couple $100,000 there compared to what they were trying to charge us post-acceptance of their curriculum. So, transparency in the process for all vendors, right? Classroom trust fund, so that's the CTF that we talked about. So as we approve the tax rate hearing, what we're able to do, what we were doing the last 2 years is taking some of our classroom trust fund, and we were having to supplement our debt service. That takes money out of our operating expenses, and that's money we can't put towards our regular operating expenses, which means we're deficit spending in 3 different funds because of that. Because of that work we were able to do and capitalize on that, we can now leave those funds there, which then we can use to help cover other regular costs or increasing costs that we know will happen because of contractual services, or just the regular increase in cost year over year. Recoded food service and utility costs. So we've talked at length about how food service is one of the only ways you can make money in education. So what we did was found out that it's allowable. So your kitchen takes up 20 to 25% of your building. So we're able to recode maintenance, custodial, and utilities cost to that, because you can only spend food service money on food service. So we took operational funds and saved 25% of some of those by recoding them to food service, because that's a big piece of the building, and a lot of people are spending time equity there and services. So that helps us overall in operational funds. Tightening budgets using needs versus wants versus dreams. This is something the cabinet and our principals and our directors have heard a lot of, really trying to reduce the amount of, I don't want to say fluff, because I don't think anyone in this district was doing anything that's not good for kids. But if you put money in a budget and there's extra money there, a lot of times it's going to get spent. And it's not that it's not good for a kid, it's that maybe it wasn't planned and you end up nickel and diming yourself in the long run. So we've removed a lot of that extra fluff. If someone needs something, they can come and ask and we can look at it. They still have budgets to do things that they need to do, but we're creating a plan and we're identifying the needs and what we need to do to provide the best education for our kids as possible. And as wants and dreams come along, we figure out, does it fit in our plan? Do we have money in the budget to do this? And those will be things that we then get approved afterwards, not already built in where we're not able to track it. So that's not as much fun of a topic to cover because you don't always want to have to ask for things, but it's important in our budgeting process and creating transparency in what we're trying to do to add that step. Reviewed vendor contracts, for example, Dr. Gilkey and I begged, borrowed, pleaded with one of our vendors. So a lot of times when you get to the back end 2 years of a 5-year contract, the increase could be anywhere from 2 to 6%. That's not our district, that's just how it works on most vendors. We were able to negotiate a 2% instead of a 6%. And you're looking at $1 million or multi-million dollars, that saves you a couple $100,000. So great job to Mr. Gilkey on giving his best puppy dog eyes to our vendors and trying to save us some finances over time. So that helped tremendously in this. Staffing efficiency, so when you look at the decrease or the adjustment in there, that's really the work that we've done over the last 18 years or 18 months through attrition and really identifying the staff members that we have, where we have, and making sure we have what we need, where we need it for our students. And then what we'll do is continue to have an HR audit as we look at things, working closely with student services, human resources, making sure we have what we need where we need it, and we'll kind of hit that in the next steps. Budget to actual alignment, so you know, beginning of the year, you always have we think this is what it's going to be. This is the perfect time of the year, Q1, to look at what was the budgeted versus the actual spent, and you can kind of reduce some of that gray area in there, which helps you align your budget back to where it needs to be. And then facilities capital savings, so we don't have to put as much into Fund 4 spending, knowing that we have a lot of things. So anything that is an emergency that comes up or extra things, those would be things that we would need to get approved, and we know that would be deficit spending in that area. Still going, almost done, guys, sorry. Looking ahead, priorities and next steps. So utility cost. We know that in one of the revisions, probably Q3 or Q4, we will have to put more money in utilities. It's up 12% this year. It's hard to guess what that is, so we have a decent amount in there. We're probably going to have to add money to that, which would be overall operational expenses. I would rather wait till we get to that point and then do the budget revision than just have a bunch of money sitting there hoping and guessing in the long run. So we'll know that we'll have to address that at some point. Capital spending strategy. Our current capital spending, especially for Lewis through the loose purchase agreements, is significant. So we're looking at that $750,000 to $850,000 in capital that we're having to transfer. So as assessed valuation goes up, as we address things as a district, as we pay off some of the short-term leases, we want to make sure that we have a plan for how to make sure we are balancing all those budgets for those long-term planned expenses that we've had. With our no budgeting tool, we can benchmark and have comparative analytics with some either area districts that we compete with or districts that look like us when it comes to socioeconomic and budget size. So that'll be good for all of our departments to look at, hey, where are we in this area compared to some of these schools. Human resources audit staffing alignment. So something we've talked about, a goal of Mr. Gilkey and I's this year. As staffing remains our largest investment, this will help us review and determine where we're aligned with actual student programs and operational needs, identify any additional needs that we may have, inefficiencies we may have, anything of that nature. So that'll be an important step for us. And then just strategic budgeting. Once we get this balance and get through this year, how do we come up with a general, not knowing what's going to happen, overview of what our budget could look like in 3 to 5 years, and working with some expert advisors as we go through that process. So that's a lot. I'm sure you have some questions. I thought because of the work that was put in, it was important to honor those things, the things we've done, create transparency in the process. there are still tough decisions that will be made, but we're in a much better spot now than I think that we were before, and that's just because we have a better idea of actuals. We have a better idea of the revenues that we can get. Hopefully, we have a better idea of the expenses to actual compared to what we did in the spring. And it'll be something, I don't know that it'll be this drastic, but every year we'll have a Q1 revision that's probably bigger than the other quarters, just because you don't know what you're going to end the actuals on and really don't know to project. Some of those contracts don't come up till over the summer. But we'll do the best we can in that, knowing that we'll have a Q1 revision as we go through it. I would ask the board to approve the Q1 revision, budget revision, and open it up for any questions.
All right. I would like to start with just saying thank you guys for all your hard work.
Incredible.
Good Lord.
That's a lot of work.
I don't know who typed all this up, but they deserve kudos.
Lisa? No, that's what we know.
But thank you guys all for
Very,
putting in.
very transparent.
And another quarter, 3 more budget revisions.
Hopefully not this long.
All right, any questions, comments, thoughts? It's a
Yeah,
lot.
and just the work that went into like renegotiating some lower rates on contracts and finding opportunities, and can Medicare come in, and can like all the different, what can we bring in house for, it's really great, and thank you to everybody for the hard work.
They worked really hard, so thank you.
I like the creativity with the coding, moving maintenance.
Doing everything we can.
Just got to read the fiber.
It was good to see both an emphasis on like reducing costs and bringing in revenue. Like it's just approaching that from both sides. But again, the work is very evident looking at this, and it's appreciated.
They worked hard. If you see these 3 or Alice and Audra, pat them on the back and thank them for me. They hide from me sometimes when I come walking in, so it's still a good place.
All right, hearing no questions, entertain a motion to approve the Q1 budget revision.
So moved.
First by Jill. Second by Brett. All those in favor? That passes 7-0. All right. Thank you guys for sticking with us this evening.
Thank you guys.
You could tell your assistant, I mean, she had to take her daughter home.
I told her a long time ago.
She missed the
She
best
listened
part
to
of the
Gilkey.
whole The second best.
And Mr. Ruby offered to escort him out.
All right.
Shook her head and was nice.
Yeah. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
First by Brett. Second by Tracy. All those in favor? Good night, Alice. Say good night. I saw it that way. I hadn't seen anybody else.